So many people speak about the idea of relationships or really anything, and they give practical points to really just level up, meaning like people aren't necessarily where they should be. So it's like, here, do these things, and then we can start allowing ourselves to just be at like the level, the neutral level where you want to be. And today I want to speak about an idea where it's not just taking it to the natural, neutral level, but it's really like taking it to new heights. It's like really taking things to the next level. And when it comes to relationships, it's so incredibly important what we can start to do. So whether it's in your personal relationships or your professional relationships, there are certain things we can do to really elevate those relationships to make sure that we're actually living those types of relationships that we want to have. And it's going to be the best for everybody. It's going to be the best for all parties involved. So seeing what we can start to do to really make that happen is actually something so important. And I want to share with everybody a few couple ideas that we which we can start to do, because if we can start taking advantage of our relationships, like that's all we're doing. We're all here as people, we're all embracing one another, we're all talking to people all day, and it's really seeing how we can actually elevate ourselves to really step it up to the next level. So one of the really cool ideas that everyone loves to talk about like communication, but one of the other ideas people like to talk about is appreciation. And the more appreciation you can show, then the better it can be. So that's great, and that's amazing, and it's highly recommended. But I think there's another level of appreciation that people can go to. And sometimes, somebody will hold the door open for you and there's a thank you. Thank you so much. That was really kind of you. And that's something that should be necessary and standard. But what about the appreciation and the thanks for things that maybe just there are you're taking advantage of, or because they're so standard, right? People are just doing them because like that's what they do, that's their job, and you're not being appreciated for it. So like if you go to like a restaurant, so questions like, why do you say thank you to like a waiter or waitress who are doing the tables? It's like that's their job. So like, why do you say thank you? Like, no, because there's an actual deep thanks that we have for you for helping and serve us, even though you're getting paid for it. It's okay, and we can say thank you to them. So many times there's certain situations where people will be doing certain things, and it's like part of their job. It's part of the things that they're supposed to be doing, whether it's in their houses or whether it's in their jobs, that they should be doing, and they don't necessarily get appreciated for those things because like, no, this is like what they should be doing, and we should come in and like appreciate those things. So if somebody's doing something and they can be appreciated and be thanked for something that, what, like, oh, like, no problem, like I do this all the time, like it's really not a big deal. Imagine what that person's going to feel like, and you can think about like, how would you feel if you're doing something, right? And that's just what you do. That's a normal thing, like answering emails or answering the phones or calling people or doing the laundry or doing the dishes or just mopping the floor, whatever it is that you're doing. And imagine like it's part of your job, but imagine if somebody just took a second and said, hey, you know what, I really appreciate you doing that thing, and really just slow down to appreciate somebody for doing something. Imagine what type of level of appreciation, right, that person can have for you. So understanding that could be something that could really just take things to the next level. So it's not necessarily the standard thank you for doing X, Y, and Z, but it's something that maybe people aren't recognized for, that we can actually start to take to the next level to really show our appreciation. The second idea that I want to talk about, and this happened because a couple of weeks ago, I was in the store with my wife and the kids, and we saw somebody we knew, this gentleman who we saw, and we ended up passing by, and we said hello, and the person nodded and just like turned a shoulder, and it was very cold. And my wife and I looked at each other like, interesting. And we're not judging the person, right? Because maybe they're going through something. But on the other hand, we're like, okay, so what can we take out of that? And it was this idea of our energy levels and the way we show up really matter, because this person could have had just like a normal hello, hi, well, hi, how are you? How are things going? I'm in a rush, whatever it is. Like that would have been fine. But the fact that they just turned and they like gave like this cold shoulder was actually something that just like it like threw my wife and I off, and we were like so shocked, and me personally, I was like, like I don't want to do that to people, like that's just not nice. And like hopefully you could be on top of it, and sometimes we're tired and we're exhausted and our kids and this and that, and there's like so many excuses or reasons why maybe that we should be like X, Y, and Z. But understanding that if we can look to just bring our energy into whatever situation we're going to be coming in, it's going to be a totally different vibe that's going to be going on. And you can imagine, like, the thing about it, if you were able to take a 30-second break before you went home from work, and you were able to say, you know what, my family needs me right now. I need to be able to step up right now, and I need to do these certain things, X, Y, and Z. So imagine like what type of person shows up. Imagine what that would do for your family if you were able to come like, hey, everybody, how's it going? And even though like you're exhausted, and even though you're tired, and even though you're like you're not in the mood, and things are going terrible. So the same thing even with our employees. Like if we show up to our employees and like we're low energy and we're just negative and we're complaining and all these things, like that's going to overflow and fill in everything else that we're doing. So recognizing the way we show up is actually extremely important as well. So understanding that our energy levels really transfer. This is one of the things that I learned in coaching a lot is that energy levels transfer. So when you're speaking to somebody, if you're excited and you're exuberant and you're out there and you're just like going on and on and on, like that transfers to the other person. But if you're like sitting back in your chair and you're like upset and you're annoyed, like that's also going to transfer. So just be extremely careful with the energy levels and the way we're actually feeling. And if we can do that, then we can actually look to start to understand like what's really going on. And then we can actually allow the energy and the people around us really have a bigger effect than like they might than we might think they do. So number one is appreciation, but taking it to the next level. Number two is energy level. Number three is go out of your way for the people around you. So whether you're at home or not, is there something you can do that you're not expected to do that you can actually start to take initiative? So the other week I was in my house and there were dishes that were in the dishwasher and I had a couple of minutes. I'm like, let me just unload the dishwasher. Something that I do sometimes, but like not during like my work day. So I realized, let me do this one small thing. And it was like, my wife's like, thank you so much for doing that. I like was really just a small thing that took me like 2.5 minutes, but like it really showed it. Like she really appreciated it. So there's certain things that we could possibly look to do that are not on our list. They're not like expected of us. And if we could look to do those things, then it could like really change to show like that we care about the other person. So if like you're a boss and it's like, you know what, like I'm buying lunch for everybody today, just because like I just want to say like thanks so much for like what you're doing. Or it's like you see somebody having a rough time and like you know what, like take the rest of the day off. Like I see something's going on. And like people could really understand that and really see what is happening. And they could see that, then they will just start appreciating those things even more. And they're going to just feel that way of like, oh my gosh, thank you. Somebody else got my back. And that's really like what it is. People don't want to feel alone. People want to make sure that they're with other people and they want to know that, the things that I'm doing are okay. And, I have other people and you know what? Life is so complicated and there's so much going on, but recognizing that, yes, there are things that I'm going through and like there's certain things I have to get done in my day. But if I can have somebody who I know trusts me and can get on my back, then that is something that I could look to take to the next level and look to know, just knowing that I have somebody. And that's something that I personally have with like my coaches that I have, right? Just knowing like, even when I'm like not talking to them, like knowing like, they got my back, what would they say in the situation, and like start to like make the changes and start to move forward. That is something that is so tremendous. And to allow ourselves to realize, there are other people around, and to show other people, hey, I got your back, even when I'm not there, is something that could be extremely important and could really make a big dent and really make a big transformation for other people, just knowing that they have other people around. Because we all want to have that connection. We all want to be able to have that support. And if we know we could show that support to other people, just so they know that when we're not around, we're also going to be there for them, could be something tremendous. So recognize that there are certain things that we're not expected to do, but if we continue to just do certain things that we can do, and I'm not saying to go like the end of the mile and to do, X, Y, and Z, but like there are certain things that we could probably do that are probably pretty easy. So allow those things to happen. And if we can start to do those things, then we can really look to start to take things and the relationships to the next level. And the fourth and final idea about something that we can look to do is, and this might go for more people just in like a relationship and in terms of like a spouse or a loved one, is make time to do those things. So when I look back at certain relationships that I've had and I think about like the good times, it was more just we were like just chilling and like hanging out. Yes, there were certain experiences and it's important to go on date nights and do all these things, but like just hanging out in the kitchen and just talking and schmoozing or just like going on a walk or doing something so easy is something that I think people will take for granted. And if we could just start to focus on certain things throughout our day, that here, just 5 minutes, just like hang out and sit and talk and chat and not be distracted, that could be something that could be a really big game changer. And so many people are just so distracted by things that are going on in their lives. And like those things are important. But I heard somebody recently post on LinkedIn saying that they took a week off of LinkedIn and like, guess what happened? Like nothing happened. It was all the same when they came back. And like, we had this big FOMO of like missing out on all these different opportunities that we're going to have, and recognizing that, no, you can actually take like a 5 or 10 or 20 or an hour or 2 hour break and like things are going to be fine. So recognizing that is extremely important. If we could just see, who are the people that we want to be hanging out with, what are the things that we want to be doing, then we can actually start to make those changes. We could have to have those relationships, have those deep connections. And so many times, as people get older and different priorities come up, and kids and schooling and work and this and that, there is a lot. Not to say that like we should ignore things, but understand that the more disciplined we could be in certain relationships that we have, and it doesn't have to be for so long. It could just be like a quick reminder here and a quick reminder here and a quick reminder here. So that's going to be able to carry us through those whole times. And there'll be times where we can have the hour, and there're going to be times that like, no, it's only 5 minutes, but just knowing that we can have those conversations, be able to have those relationships, can actually be something that could really change everything. And I find it so often with people that they're so focused, and I'm guilty of this as well. It's so focused on growing your business and doing big things and making impact that we forget about certain people around us sometimes, because you're so focused. And if you could just slow down and remember, at the end of the day, am I going to be more upset that I didn't put in like 3 extra hours of work, or am I that I was able to spend 3 hours with like my kids? Like, yeah, like you'll probably be okay not putting in those 3 extra hours of work and like spending it with your kids, which you can literally remember for the rest of your lives. So recognizing that you have all these different opportunities, that yes, there are certain relationships and certain things that we can be doing to just level up. And there are so many great and easy things to do, but really take things to the next level, where it's like, no, it's not just living like a neutral life. Like, let's live like this high performing life. Let's do the things that can really elevate everything in all areas of our life. And I think relationship is one of these tremendous amount of areas. Number one, should appreciate not just the small things, just not the normal things, but even the things that we might be taking for granted. Number two is the energy, the way we actually show up. And if we can actually show up, and it really takes work, because we're not in the mood a lot of times, and we're tired a lot of times, and we have all these things. So recognizing, how can I show up in a certain way? Number three is just going out of your way to do certain things, even though you're not expected to do those things. So really just doing certain activities and certain things that, we're not told to do, or not on our radar, and let's help other people to show that we actually care about them. And number four is just making time to be with the people that we want to be with, and recognize that even if it's not like an hour or 2 hours that like people talk about, and it's not a date night, whatever it is, it's like, here, can we get 5 minutes? Can we just have 10 minutes? Can we go on a quick walk around the block, whatever it is? And by doing that, we're going to be able to start being disciplined to live types of life and have, honestly, the relationships that we want to live. And everybody at the end of life talks about their relationships, about the people who are going to be around them and around their deathbeds and whatnot. So let's try to focus on those and really try to invest in those, as opposed to only being investing in our businesses, which is also very important, but recognizing that, okay, at the end of the day, like, I can take a little break. All right. Hope everyone's doing well. If you have any questions, if you have any topics you'd like me to speak about, feel free to reach out on the next one.